Welcome back. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating ancient text in this explainer, the letter to the Colossians. What makes this letter absolutely captivating is how it grabs these grand, sweeping, literally universe-level concepts and then just funnels them right down into the super mundane realities of an ancient living room. It is an absolute masterclass in connecting the cosmic to the everyday.
But there's a really striking contrast right at the core of this text. The author, Paul, claims to possess this universe-altering revelation, a mystery hidden for ages and generations, right? But he's writing this while physically locked in a dingy room, specifically noting that he is in chains. It's just the ultimate irony, a prisoner claiming to hold the actual keys to the cosmos. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be hitting 6 main stops: the mystery revealed, the supremacy of Christ, rejecting deceptive philosophies, putting on the new self, rules for ancient households, and finally, the early church network.
Section 1, the mystery revealed, setting the scene in Colossae.
So this text opens as a pretty traditional Greco-Roman letter, written by Paul to a community he didn't actually plant himself. No, instead, a guy named Epaphras acted as the crucial intermediary. He's described here as a dear fellow servant who brought the initial message to Colossae and then literally traveled to wherever Paul was imprisoned to report back on their faith and love. So Paul is writing to a community he really only knows through this faithful middleman.
Section 2, the supremacy of Christ, mapping the high theology. To deal with their local issues, the text first zooms all the way out to establish this massive, foundational theological premise. Walk through these cosmic claims with me. It states, he is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. It actually goes so far as to credit him as the creator of all thrones, powers, and authorities, both visible and invisible. And then it grounds this insane cosmic scale by calling him the head of the body, the church, and the firstborn from among the dead. Basically, the author is leaving absolutely zero room for any rival powers in the universe.
And the ultimate goal of all that supremacy? Total reconciliation. By stating God was pleased to have his fullness dwell in him, to reconcile to himself all things, Paul is setting up the central solution to the whole ideological problem he's about to address. Because if Christ is supreme over literally everything, then, well, nothing else needs to be added.
Section 3, rejecting deceptive philosophies, the ideological conflict.
Right, so those high, sweeping cosmic concepts we just talked about, they're actually being deployed to combat a highly localized ideological threat. The text presents this incredibly stark choice. On one side, you have this hollow and deceptive philosophy that's rooted in mere human tradition and the basic principles of this world. And on the other, the complete fullness of deity found in Christ. The argument is pretty straightforward. Why in the world would you settle for basic earthly principles when you have direct access to the fullness of the divine? Building on that contrast, the author actively urges the readers, hey, do not let yourselves be judged by temporary rituals or harsh ascetic rules. He's talking about things like dietary restrictions, religious festivals, new moons, or Sabbaths, all these rules of do not touch, do not taste, do not handle. He frames them simply as mere shadows. They're just silhouettes of a much greater reality. And that reality, it's found completely in Christ. The text actually gets very specific about these spiritual hazards. It warns against getting sidetracked by the worship of angels, engaging in false humility, and following leaders whose unspiritual minds are just puffed up with idle notions. The author makes the case that these practices, even things like the really harsh treatment of the physical body, actually lack any real value against sensual indulgence. And worse, they sever the community's connection to their true head, which essentially breaks the entire system.
Section 4, putting on the new self, the metaphorical wardrobe change.
So you might be wondering, if strict earthly rules aren't the answer, what on earth is? Well, the text shifts from these abstract arguments to highly personal behavioral ethics, and it uses a metaphor we can all instantly relate to, a wardrobe change. Step 1 is an active shedding of the old self, literally tossing out destructive habits like anger, malice, and lies, kind of like throwing away out-of-style clothes. Step 2 is putting on the new self, dressing yourself in compassion, kindness, humility, and patience. And finally, step 3 is binding all these garments together in perfect unity with love. It's this highly practical, super active transformation. But here's the thing. This wardrobe change isn't just for, individual self-improvement. It has massive social implications. By declaring there is no Greek or Jew, slave or free, the text is aiming to completely flatten the deeply entrenched social and cultural hierarchies of the ancient world. It is proposing a radical new community where the shared identity absolutely supersedes all earthly divisions.
Section 5. Rules for Ancient Households. Micro-level guidelines.
Now we see the final tightening of that funnel we talked about at the start. The grand cosmic narrative literally walks right through the front door of the ancient Greco-Roman household. Notice the reciprocal nature of these ancient social codes. We have wives and husbands, children and fathers, slaves and masters. Now, while it certainly utilizes the existing patriarchal structures of the first-century Roman world, the text attempts to inject its brand new theology directly into these family and economic power dynamics. It gives instructions to the subordinates, like obeying and submitting, but, and this is crucial, it pairs them with strict guardrails for those in power. Husbands must not be harsh, fathers must not embitter their children, and masters absolutely must provide what is right and fair, reminding them that, hey, they too have a master in heaven.
To kind of synthesize all this, the author gives us this amazing defining verse. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men. This really emphasizes the core principle the text is applying to all these household structures. It's basically urging the reader to view even the most mundane, mind-numbing, repetitive daily labor as a direct spiritual act. Suddenly, your daily grind is infused with cosmic significance.
Section 6. The Early Church Network. Greetings from the underground.
As the text comes to a close, we get this fascinating rapid-fire glimpse into the boots on the ground, the real people keeping this movement alive across the Roman Empire. We've got Tychicus and Onesimus, who are physically hand-delivering this exact letter. We see Aristarchus, who is a fellow prisoner. Mark and Justus are noted as Jewish workers, while Luke, the doctor, and Demas are Gentile companions. And importantly, we see a woman named Nympha, who is literally hosting an entire church gathering right in her own house, alongside a man named Archippus, who gets a personalized little nudge to complete his work. What really stands out here is the immense diversity of this early church network. I mean, look at the mix. We've got messengers, prisoners, Jewish traditionalists, Gentile doctors, and local house church hosts. This massive mix of social classes and backgrounds is all tied together, working in total unity, driven completely by the very theology we just explored. Which brings us to our final takeaway. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. How does viewing our mundane, everyday actions through the lens of a cosmic narrative change the way we approach modern life? Colossians makes this incredibly bold attempt to weave the highest, most sweeping cosmic philosophy into the most ordinary, mundane moments of human existence, from how we treat our families to how we do our chores. It challenges us to see if the cosmic can actually transform the everyday. Definitely something to think about the next time you go about your routine. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.